Let's set up the horse's neck bones. We'll start by snapping our bone system to our spline. So let's go ahead and grab our bone tools. We'll enable snap. Let's make sure it is set to vertex snap. Now, entering create bones mode, if we were to go ahead and try to create this first bone, at times you might find that it's kind of difficult to create exactly where you want it, especially when there are other bone objects in place. So you can see that if I back up the camera just slightly and try to create that bone, it's not going to start at the right spot. So what I like to do is turn off snap temporarily just to create the first bone, and then we can go ahead and enable snap and snap to the others. Then we can use bone edit mode to reposition that root bone. Okay, great. So our bone objects are in place. Let's go ahead and exit our bone tool and exit out of snap mode. We can go ahead and check things in our perspective view. Okay, great. So that looks good. I'll head back over to the side view. Let's enter bone edit mode. Let's also bring back our objects to hide layer. We'll grab our root bone and go ahead and quick align that to our helper object, neck anchor. And now we can go ahead and exit bone edit mode and delete our spline object. So a fast way to do that is to select the layer that we've added it to and grab the object from here, delete the object, and now we can delete our layer. Okay, great. So we'll want the root of the neck to be linked to the neck anchor helper. So let's make sure that's added there. We'll then want to go through, select all of our bone objects that will be skinned to and add them to our bones layer. We know that the nub gets added to objects to hide. So let's go ahead and take care of those things. And now we can spend some time renaming these objects. So we'll name them alphabetically, starting at the root. That's going to be bn underscore neck A01. So we copy this, use that to rename the next. And remember, the nub will have a prefix of BE. So I'll go ahead and pause the video and take care of the others. Okay, so all bone objects have been renamed. Now we're going to create our spline IK in this lesson, but before we get to setting that up, let's go ahead and take our spline object and have that linked to our global control. We didn't have to worry about that for our vertebrae simply because it has been skinned, and those objects are already controlled by the global control. But in this case, since we are driving this chain with a spline IK solver, we'll need to make sure that we connect this spline back to the global control. So what I'll do is go ahead and hide the horse. And now we'll grab our link tool. Might even want to go ahead and hide our bone objects. Much better. All right, so now we can go ahead and link back to our global control. All right, great. So now that that's taken care of, we can go ahead and set up our spline IK system. Let's go ahead and bring back our bone objects. We'll select the root bone and head over to Animation, IK Solvers, and grab the Spline IK Solver. And at that point, we'd grab the nub, and the last thing we need to select is the spline. Now keep in mind that we only have 2 points on the spline. That's going to give us smoother control over our neck rig. So that's why we didn't want to populate this spline with so many points. All right, great. So let's go ahead and test this out. If we were to grab our helpers and start to move those, you could see we're getting some very nice results out of the neck. Beautiful. All right, great. I'll go ahead and take the spline. Let's go ahead and rename its goal to spik underscore neck01. We'll have this stored in objects to hide. And then we'll want this to be linked to our global control. Now there's something very important on our spline that we'll want to disable in order for us to rotate this correctly as we animate. So with the goal still selected, let's go ahead and head over to our motion panel, scroll down until we find our IK Solver properties rollout. We'll want to turn off our up node. If we leave this on, well, Max is going to look at the up node object to control the twisting of this rig. So if we go ahead and turn that off, it will act as if the entire rig is parented to whatever we defined as our parent object, which is our thorax control. Okay, great. So again, let's make sure that is off, otherwise we'll run into some very weird twisting issues. The next step after that is to simply go through and freeze the helper objects that have been generated from the spline, and we'll also want them renamed and stored in objects to hide. So let's go ahead and take care of the easier task first. We'll go ahead and grab the two helpers. Let's go ahead and add them to objects to hide. Okay, great. We'll then go in and rename these. So the first one that's connected to the neck base will be PT DRV neck root 01. We can copy the name and use that to rename the one at the end to neck end 01. I'll also make sure that we grab this helper at the root and have that linked to our neck anchor helper. Okay, so now the base of the neck will follow with the rest of the rig. We can go ahead and take a look at our progress by grabbing the thorax control and just rotating that. Notice we don't have any weird twisting issues in the neck as we rotate this control, so that's very nice. If we were to go back to our spline and go ahead and turn on the up node, let me go ahead and show you this. Now when we grab the thorax control and start to rotate, you can see that it isn't twisting properly. So I just wanted to make that point very clear to you. But everything has been linked where it needs to be connected to, so that's good. Except for, of course, our neck end. We'll go ahead and take care of that after we build our head control. But for the most part, everything is where it needs to be and everything has been renamed. So we're ready to stop the lesson. And in the next lesson, we will work on our head and ear bones.